All right. Record button is on. Hold button is on. Testing 1. Testing 2. Testing HOLD for hold. HOLD, hold. I like it. Alan, give me some testature.
Test, test. We like toast. Do you like toast? I like toast.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of microphone you using?
I'm using the microphone of my AirPods.
Perfect. Make sure make sure that you are nice and clear, but otherwise it's really good. When it's really good, it's really good.
Yeah.
I would even say when it's really good, it's the best we've ever had. How's that? How's that,
That's
Smafcasters? Episode 27, here we are. And if you haven't checked it out yet, episode 26 is live as of this morning. So by the time you're listening to this, you will have had a week to let it stew. What are you waiting for? Get over there. Listen to Smafcast episode 26, entitled, I Spent So Many Quarters. We talked a lot about video game lightsabers. That's video game lightsabers, not video game, lightsabers. We talked about Ray Park, which is always a good topic. And we talked about more video games. So real nerdy, real fun episode. I was a big fan. Actually, listening back to it, Alan, when I was editing, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than when we recorded it, which I had a lot of fun recording. So there we go.
That's cool.
Good episode, Alan. I know that we're gonna do our usual thing tonight, but of course, I want to check in. I know you've got something you want to talk about. You talked about it last week. Coming up in May. Why don't we get that in right now?
Absolutely. Saber Mayhem is at the Los Angeles LAX Hilton. It's going to be the weekend of Memorial Day, so that's going to be May 24th through 27th. Everyone is invited to come and play Sabers with us. It is going to be right across the street from the airport, so even if you're out of town, all you got to do is walk across the street after getting off the plane.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean, bring your own saber, but we
Yeah.
will have extras.
Yeah.
And we have, we want to have panels. We want to have demonstration rings. We want to have small tournaments set up. If you are part of a saber organization and you haven't gotten a hold of me yet, do it quick.
Yeah.
Find me, and I'll put your name on the list of the people that are going to be scheduled for these panels, people that are be scheduled for these demo rings and these small tournaments. If you don't get a hold of me, I have no guarantee if you show up that you will get those things. So yeah, Saber Mayhem.
Saber Mayhem. Hey, I know we briefly mentioned this to each other, but we need to talk logistics of how we can maybe do a live Smafcast or 2 or 3 or 7
Sure.
during that. But
I meant to tell you, Kay
Yeah.
got a hold of me because you couldn't get a hold of him.
I couldn't get a hold of him.
Yeah, you said you tried calling him and he couldn't get to the phone.
Oh man, that might have been a butt dial. But Kay, if you're
Oh,
listening,
there you go.
which I know you are, I will text you. I did text.
There you go.
Well, I was going to tell you. I texted with Kay and Courtney this week.
you
Lovely
go.
to hear from them, and they. I didn't ask them yet, so here we are, boys. I'm going to have you boys on the podcast again here soon. I'm not asking. I'm telling, and I know that you will oblige because you're great gentlemen. So yeah, listener favorites from original Smafcast, and other incarnations of, like the San Diego Sabers podcast. They were on Star Review. I think some of them. So anyway, Saber Mayhem is going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to be there physically, but we're going to see what we can do as far as force ghosting ourselves in there. And
Right.
I think we've said this in a number of ways on a number of episodes, but if you've never done anything like this before, this is a good time to try. If you are able to get to, you said the Los Angeles Hilton, right?
Yes.
If you are able to get
LAX Hilton. Yeah.
to the Los Angeles Hilton, the LAX Hilton, why wouldn't you? If you have any interest, why wouldn't you? And if you're not, then check back in with us before, during, after the said event, and hopefully we'll have some good content for you, both on the podcast and on the YouTube, and who knows what else. So that'll be a lot of fun. That will, I guess we'll have more information on that as we get closer, Alan. But if there's any links that are pertinent, once you send them to me, I will make sure they make it into any show notes that they need to. So,
Absolutely.
people who are interested, that is coming your way. I don't think there's anything immediately else coming up. So, anyway, tonight, Alan, I think the plan is to kind of peekaboo at some stuff that we have. So, kind of just some content from our personal little archives of our systems, our respective systems. Is that still the plan?
Yes. I mean, I have them queued up on my computer right now.
All right, so I'm on our channel right now, Alan. Which video
Mhm.
would you like me to look at first?
Let's go to pretty much starting at one. Let's go to Shicho High Strike.
Shicho High Strike. Okay, let me. I'm working with a 10-year-old computer right now, so give me a second.
Sure, sure.
All right, Shicho High Strike.
Mm-hmm.
I see Shicho middle guard break, Shicho low
Mm-hmm.
strike defense, high strike defense. Is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the one.
So again, I will link this in the. Yes, Alan, should I link this in the show description?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
if you took the time to get this far and listen, you've earned that link.
There you go. I like that policy. That's a really good policy. I'm gonna click that link myself right now. It's pulling up on YouTube. And Alan, do you want to give us a little preface, or should we just get right into it?
It is pretty loud, so you know.
Yeah, I'm just muting my computer. Do I need
Right.
the volume on, or am I good?
No, you don't need the volume on at all.
Okay.
So, I mean, the SMA Foundation logo is meant to be kind of jarring when you play it, so that's why it's there. And on all of these, you'll have to unfortunately sit through both the Phoenix Saber logo and then a fun little thing here.
Oh
Uh,
shucks. Oh shucks.
I know,
Me, oh my, poor people that can't wait for anything these days.
right? So at about 18 seconds into the video is when we get started.
Okay,
So,
so let's just play it from the top because
mhm,
why not enjoy the
sure.
logo? Starting in three, two, one.
Hmm.
For any noobs, Shicho meaning Form One, the first lightsaber form. For anybody who's like, "Duh, we know that already." Just relax. Sometimes every episode is somebody's first episode.
This is true. So when you look at this, this is basically a Form One defense.
Ah,
Phoenix Saber
yes.
Academy is basically what I call what we do with our sabers, and basically this is from a straight up. Our strike one is usually everybody else's strike one as well, where it's just from the right hand side swinging downward, trying to cut somebody in half at a diagonal, right? So the idea here, and you can listen to me talk on this if you want, but basically, if you started in a middle guard, which is your basic ready position, is to intercept the blade, and then as we intercept the blade, part of this whole idea is to actually use your structure and not your strength,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you watch the block, I'm stepping into a block and I'm not trying to move my blade. I'm stepping with my foot to move my whole body, but I don't really move my sword until after our blades make contact. So when you do this particular thing, this is one of the ideas of Shicho is less movement is good movement. So if you step and move your whole body as one unit, it becomes much easier to do the counter, which is here letting their blade drop and just going over and hitting them over the head, or you can actually turn this into even more of a blocking idea if you so choose.
So you said less movement is good movement, and
Hmm.
I think that's exactly the way you said it. I like that
Hmm.
way of saying it. That is another way that you might have heard that, and we said it last week in episode 26 is economy of motion. This concept
Hmm.
in martial arts of making the most out of your energy output. In other words, if you're going to waste any time doing anything, you might as well do it efficiently.
Right.
So you're already expending energy. You're already expending strength and speed and all these things. You
Hmm.
you might as well not leave too much of that excess trailing off.
Right.
So I like the way that your simple way of putting that. Less movement is good movement. I'm stealing that totally.
Of course.
And it's interesting to me that you're teaching that right in Form 1. I think everybody should. I think everybody probably is to some degree. They might just not even be aware they are. But I think getting right into it in Form 1 is important because a lot of times, or maybe I shouldn't say a lot of times, but I feel like I notice that starts to come into effect more in the higher forms, maybe even just starting with Form 2, but definitely when you get into like Form 3, Form 5, economy of motion becomes super important.
Hmm.
And just, every form is Shicho. There's something we
Hmm.
always say, and there you go. There's an example of it with economy of motion. If you're teaching it right from the get-go, then you will be able to effect it
Hmm.
more readily later on. So that was
Absolutely.
that was a fun. I actually really liked that video in the sense of I didn't even realize that was the concept I was going to pick up from it. So that was really cool. And again, I'll say your Form 1 is mildly reminiscent or mildly what's the word premonition of Form 5.
Right.
Very
Well,
interesting.
it kind of has to be because if you can't pull off Form 1, your Form 5 is gonna look like trash,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
a lot of the techniques in Form 5 are just Form 1 revisited, remastered, remixed, however you want to see it.
yeah,
Um, so a lot of the ideas, right, or at least my interpretation of Form 1, uh, is simplicity in motion.
yeah.
So if I can sit there and just block forever, with good blade work and everything like that, but that seems more like Makashi and Saresu
Correct.
to me, with with more emphasis on parrying and cutting lines of distance with Makashi. But like when I think of Form 1, it's literally trying to get the fight over with
Yeah,
so that your block wasn't wasted,
yeah,
right?
right.
Whereas my idea of Form 5 for Gemso is being able to parry or block with such ferocity that that motion turns into another strike.
I would
It's a
not
it's a
disagree with anything you're saying. I
yeah,
really
it's
like
a
the
it's
way
a
you're laying it
slight
out.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's slight difference, but it's the pieces are there. Because in Shicho, my directive that I try to teach is every block and every strike is also a block or a strike.
correct. That should be in
So
all martial arts, but definitely that's a karate concept that I've picked up on,
yeah,
and I like. I keep saying I like. I do. I like that you're saying these things. These are things
yeah,
that I feel like should be addressed. They're not. They're not like difficult concepts. They seem a little heady, but they're not. They're really simple
right.
concepts.
Well, if you look, a lot of the stuff that I talk about in that video, I mean, it's a 2-minute video.
Yeah,
I
it's
try
not
I try
super
to
long.
make it really short, is to try to get it so like every movement is meant to set up another movement or just complete a single movement.
Yeah.
And if I can complete this single movement, then I'm in a much better position than I was when we started.
Well, one other thing you said, um, that is an interesting point. One other thing you said earlier was you were just laying out the video, and you said I use my body structure to block and adjust the blade, adjust the other part, etc. Um, I feel like that is a key difference between not just Form 1 and 5, but Form 1 becoming other forms is that, to me, this is to me, Form 1
Mhm.
focuses on the body much more, whereas, especially starting with Form 2, you're starting to focus on the blade much more. In
Correct.
other words, the techniques of the blade much more. But with Form 1, the techniques of the blade, there's like 10 or 12 of them. There's like not a lot.
Right.
Maybe double that if you count blocks. And then if you start to get really advanced, then it becomes a million different options. But that is the point. It's your body, your body mechanics are all taught in Shicho
Right.
and adjusted or refined in other forms.
Right.
Whereas the blade techniques of Shicho really evolve when you do other forms. Your body mechanics, they don't evolve much at all. You might be doing more explosive, more speed, or more power, or more of this stance or that position. Your hand might be here versus there, but it's not really changing anything. You're not really changing
Yeah.
anything as who you are as a martial artist. The martial arts of Saber is learned in Form 1, Shicho. And I think that when you said, I use this block and then I push with my body as well as the blade, like that is an expression of what I'm talking about. So
Hmm.
quality video, but quality things to be gleaned a little higher level just there. I think any
Hmm.
Joe Blow who grabs a broomstick and tries to swing it around can understand the technique you just showed, but to hear some of these other concepts, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
All right, give me
I
the next one you want to
That's why we do
watch.
it. All right, let's go for the middle guard break.
Another
So
Shicho
Shicho,
Form 1.
yeah, I figure if we can go through Shicho, Makashi, and Suresu, like
That's good
the
because
small
that's about
amount of
all
them
I
that we
have
have.
for us today. I think I have Shicho, Makashi, and Ataru. So there we go.
Alright, cool. So middle guard break. Let me know when you got it up
I
there.
have it up. We can play in three, two, one, go.
All right.
And again,
So
this is called
again,
Shicho Middle Guard Break.
yeah. So this is pretty much, if once you see it, it's literally breaking the middle guard, which is going to be uh,
Where
what
most people
most
hang
people,
out,
yeah, where most people will start a fight in a middle guard or a two-handed
like a long point
uh,
guard, extended middle
yeah.
guard.
So Chudan or uh, I forget the Hema word for it. It's like posta. It means like short guard. Um, but the idea is basically if I want to uh, win the fight, if we're both in middle guard, I have to direct where his sword is going to go
Blade
or her sword.
manipulation.
Right. So the idea is I want to get to the point where the balance point of my blade is a little bit closer to his hilt.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, I step off the line. And again, using structure, I just drop my hands. And as I drop my hands, I'm going to take his blade and drive the tip of it into the ground, and then ride the rest of his weapon upward toward their face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's meant to be one quick off to the side and strike movement. It's meant to be uh, a a way for you to close distance in a single measure. And but at the same time, like you should be able to do this not in two beats, but in a beat and a half. And basically saying, I'm using a lot of words here. So distance is the space between your weapon and your target, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Measure is you're able to hit him and he's not able to hit you. And a beat is literally a moment in time,
Yeah, there's
right? So
not a better way to describe that.
yeah,
That's
it
probably the most ambiguous term that you use, though.
yeah.
It,
So most people think of techniques block strike or block strike, step block strike,
right?
but especially in the way I was taught, everything happens at the same time.
Yeah.
So as soon as you feel like you are no longer in danger, the tip of their weapon is not in your face and going toward the ground, you start the next movement. So instead of going, haha, I have your blade, you just finish the fight, hopefully within, a blink of an eye.
Um, so this one is particularly dear to my heart because I'm a big fan of blade manipulation. That's why Form
Mm-hmm,
5 is my base form. I'm a huge
mm-hmm,
fan of blade manipulation, and
mm-hmm,
also particular because I don't want to say inexperienced fighters. That's a throwaway comment that a lot of
mm-hmm,
experienced fighters use to try and
mm-hmm.
make inexperienced fighters seem more inexperienced.
Sure.
But sometimes, I'll just say it, a slightly less experienced fighters might hang out in middle guard more often. I think you said you were looking for the Italian word. I think
Mm,
in German they call that the guard the plow guard. Um,
mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% positive on that, but I would
I
just call it
believe
middle guard. You also
I
use the
believe
Japanese
plow
term.
is with the tip down.
Okay, so I'm not 100. Like I said, I'm not 100% on that, but you might very well be right.
Yeah.
I do know that middle guard can be a great place to hang out if you use your middle guard properly. A lot of times, people will
Right.
just point it straight or use what we call long point, which would be an extended version of the middle guard where your arms are outstretched and the tip is really. But an experienced fighter who does know about some blade manipulation is going to have a field day with that because
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted you to say, "Here's my blade. What do you want to do with it?"
Posta breve, that's what it's called.
Okay. Yep.
Short guard.
Yes. Short guard. So to me, whether it isn't a short guard or a long guard, that
Mm-hmm.
that tip in the middle is super tasty. And what I will do a lot of times to draw their arms further away from their body into more of a long point guard because it's much easier to manipulate them if their elbows are not in tight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is I'll start snipping at the tip, as I call it, or nipping at the tip,
Hmm.
where
Sure.
I'll just use the tip of my sword, moving through middle guard as well, but using my middle guard at different angles so that my hilt's on the right side, my hilt's on the left side. I might raise it 2-3 inches. And each time I do that, I'm taking a little whack at the tip of their sword just to see what happens, just to see if they
Mm-hmm.
move more or if they go right back to that guard. Because a truly inexperienced fighter, they will just sit there with that sword outstretched because to them, that is protecting them. It's
Right.
between you and them, so it's protecting them. But somebody who is more experienced might use that to help them to say, if he keeps hitting the tip of my sword, maybe I'll make him think that I'm going to keep it back. But then as soon as I pull my elbows in, he's going to meet the tip of the sword. So there's just a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that can happen with this concept as you get more experience. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I like how you address this uh, right now because if you're coming into a tournament, beware.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see this all over the
Oh yeah.
place. All over the place. And this little technique of just batting it down so that the tip of their sword is not dangerous to you. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's bread and butter right there.
Yeah. So there is a version of this called plow,
Okay.
which is the only difference of uh, as far as I know. And again, I'm not a I've only done HEMA for like 5 years. So the
And
only
more of the
difference,
Italian terminology than the German terminology, correct?
yeah, exactly. The only difference really, as far as I've seen, is where you hold it on your hip.
Right,
whereas
right.
one is with the forward hip and the other is on the rear hip.
And with a
And I believe,
katana,
hmm
what do we call it? Is it Jodan no Kamai?
Chod, yeah,
Chodan.
hmm
I'm not a Japanese
Chudan, but yes,
expert in pronunciation, but we try
yeah,
around here. We try our hardest. We try not to
right,
sound like total idiots. Um,
right.
I
And if
believe
we're
that
wrong,
the
Kay will tell us.
yeah, yeah. I believe that the sword is more like you're describing, not on the hip so much, but more in front of the belly button, a little
Correct,
bit more vertical and sort of 12 to 6.
correct. And
Um,
then plow is actually elbows all the way in with
Correct.
the
Yeah. Now that you
uh,
say that, I'm here. I'm seeing the drawing in. I think it's Tauhofer or Lichten. I don't know. I'm seeing a drawing in
sure.
my head. Meyer, one of those
Mm-hmm.
guys. I'm seeing a drawing of a guy in poofy pants,
Mm-hmm.
holding a sword. Uh,
All right. Doesn't matter what type of sword form you do, you're gonna wear some goofy pants. Just so you know.
yeah, I wear gi pads, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. Um, so that was a fun video just because I think it's super applicable to everybody immediately. Like you can use
Right.
that one right away all the
A-
time.
And and because it's such a simple move, experienced fighters will give you respect when you actually do
I
it on them
agree with you on that. Yep.
because they're like, "Wow, I just got hit with first technique."
Day one.
You know,
Yep. It's like
day one,
getting
yeah, day one could,
a really good front kick to the gut,
yeah,
like from
right,
standing position. It's like, oh, not only did
yeah,
I not see that easy thing to see, but
uh huh,
it just plowed right through me and made me wish that I didn't eat any food today.
right,
So,
right,
um, I also really quickly I want to make a little parallel to unarmed martial arts because the act of first of all everything you showed so far you move your body offline while you're doing it. Super smart.
yes,
Obviously, for people who have experience, that's an obvious thing, or it should be. You've sure have heard that before. But for people who don't have any experience, that's something you want to start incorporating. You don't always want to meet 12 o'clock at 12 o'clock. Sometimes you want to meet 12 o'clock at 1, 2, 1:30, 1:15, 11 and a half. You know what I mean? So,
right. And
I,
if you are a T-Rex of a human being like I am, I have short arms and a big
yeah,
head.
yeah, me too.
Um, uh, moving offline is so much easier
I
than
agree.
trying to reach. Like the people I usually fight are like a foot taller than I am,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
really
yeah.
well.
I'm
I mean,
never fighting
I'm
people my size.
exaggerating, but I've never fought anybody my size really
Yeah,
that and fought the same way as the people that I usually fight who are much
yeah.
lankier and in what they do. Also, because you're dealing with variable lengths of hilt and variable lengths of blade in a lot of saber matchups, uh, meeting them straight on is generally speaking 99.9% not a good idea.
Yeah, suicidal. um,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry. Last thing I'll say about this video, and then we'll move on to low strike because I know we're jabber walking over here. Um, is with the unarmed martial arts very similar to me um, to I think you were saying like sort of as they're coming in or like interrupting their idea to strike with your something along those lines.
hmm
I would say if you're sparring maybe kickboxing or MMA, karate, whatever the case is, even just boxing, somebody
hmm
throws, let's say, a leg kick. Instead of checking that kick, putting your foot down, throwing a counter, as soon as their foot has the idea to kick, and I say it that way on purpose, as soon as their foot has the idea to kick, your knuckles have the idea to hit them in the chin.
Right.
And um, if it was an MMA class, I would practice it as one person throws the leg kick, the other person throws a cross as soon as that foot has the idea. And we practice it at a slow speed, then we practice it at fight speed, right?
Right.
Something like that. Or maybe a little more traditional, a block and a reverse punch. So as that person throws the reverse punch or their punch, you step offline and block and throw a punch.
Right.
And this is all, this is all for instances, but I'm just kind of give a little for instance for everybody. So let's move on. I think we have Shicho low strike defense coming up next, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I have the video ready to go. I'll give everybody a chance to, and we'll start it in 3, 2, 1, go.
So the idea of this is basically going toward a low strike or a swipe to the knee or the leg. Generally speaking, you'll only see this for people that are very confident they can hit you in the leg, whether they have a long reach or they have a way to kind of goad you into taking a big step forward so that they can hit your leg, right? Now, the first part of this video, I just show you like how in a controlled environment, the distance it takes to hit somebody's leg versus the distance it takes to hit you in the head.
Yeah, it's not even comparable.
Right. In response. Now, your analogy just now is exactly what I was just telling you.
Yeah.
As soon as somebody's going for you,
Yes.
You should have the ability to just counter with something. And all I'm really doing here as Kenny swipes for my leg is dropping the tip of my blade.
Correct.
Now, usually you'll take that hit to the leg as you hit them in the head.
You're hoping that
right?
your headshot gets there first usually.
Yeah, and usually it does because of physics and distance.
That distance thing is an SOB.
Yeah, and geometry too. He has to swing much further to hit my leg.
And he has to change levels. You do not.
Correct. So the easiest thing, and the thing that most martial arts, or at least sword arts that I've studied, have taught, is don't worry about leg strikes, because the easiest thing to do is just drop your sword.
Yeah.
Take a step back if you don't want to get hit, if you don't have armor. Take one step back as you do it, but keep the distance that you have with the tip. All you need to do is bring the tip down. Or in rapier, they actually just say extend your arm,
right? And
because
just
they'll run right.
The eye.
Yeah, they'll run right into your eye
or the throat.
Yeah, so it's very, very much that if somebody swipes for a knee. And again, this is Shicho. This is Form 1. These are simple concepts. And you'll see sometimes, fighters, including myself, I'm included in this, they'll go for it. They'll go for that leg because they feel like they can actually get you before you get them.
Yeah.
Now, there's plenty of footage of me getting hit in the head trying to get somebody in the knee. But there's plenty of footage of me hitting them in the knee before they know what happened.
Yeah.
As well. So it's very much a thing where if somebody is able to do it quickly, chances are they're not going to be straight ahead in front of you. They will not keep that same distance, right? They will actually step off the line in order to hit your leg.
Because you don't really have time to step off the line on this one.
Right. So the attacker in this case did not step off the line, which is what was the downfall of the technique.
Right.
Now, you can do this, and I'm gonna say this with a real big asterisk, because a really big risk.
Yeah.
If you were actually playing with steel or anything like that, more people have been hit in the eye, or at least the front of the fencing mask, where it gets really scary when you get hit, because of that geometry.
Yeah.
So in most cases, people don't even talk about that strike that we just did.
Yeah, when I have beginners, kids, especially kids, really like to go for that because that's at their level. Like if you're teaching a 10, a 12-year-old, then the knee strike is more attractive,
It's
especially
literally at their level.
yeah, especially if you're instructing. If I'm not the instructor, then it's definitely the knees that are at their. I'm not a tall guy though. I'm at a 10-year-old's level. So, but um, but I do teach beginners to not go for that strike. Like
Hmm.
fight the temptation, even though you might have scored with it half a dozen times today.
Hmm.
Whoever you score, they're not going to let that happen again.
Right.
But also, it gives you that false sense of confidence. If you score with it a few times, like it's not a good idea. It's just
Hmm.
today it worked. Um,
Yeah.
so what I try to do is teach people, especially the people who are doing the leg strikes, the ones who are spamming that leg strike. I try to make them counter the leg strike more often. See that
Hmm.
legs as soon, like you said, like we said, as soon as their body has the idea to move down,
Hmm.
my sword has the idea to hit him in the head.
Right.
It's just that headshot. I want you to spam that headshot. As soon as you see them drop, you flick for the head. I don't care if you get hit first. I don't
Right.
care if you lose that engagement. I want you training that reflex.
Right.
And if you are the leg striker and you start training the counter reflex, then you will start to see the fault in the technique, or you will come up with a way to do the technique that has a little bit of a kryptonite to it,
Right.
that can get around that head strike, like you said, moving offline, or maybe a feint up high so that you can move down low. Things to learn.
Hmm.
Good video. Makashi 5-hit combo. Is that next on the docket here?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
All right.
So we'll probably make a playlist out of this. So either you or I can make a playlist out of this, so
Sure.
we
Yeah, I
can
can do
go
that.
from one to the next.
Actually, what
But
I might do is just call that playlist episode 27
there
supplement,
you go.
something like that.
Hey, we have the ability to do that now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so we'll figure this out one day.
Yeah.
Uh, so
It's the new and
Makashi
improved
5-hit combo.
Smafcast, or should I say new and improving Smafcast?
Right. There you go. Right. So we're always a work in progress. So Makashi, right, or Form 2, is meant to be more of a one-on-one dueling form in the uh, canon, as
Mm-hmm.
we like to
Mm-hmm.
say.
A Blade
Um,
Masters form, even.
yeah, the Blade Master's form, but it is actually has a lot of fun ideas in it
Yeah.
as far as how to make small slashes in order to make a bigger impact. So
Uh
small
huh.
slashes turning into a bigger thing. The idea is, again, we're trying to get used to body mechanics and how much room do you actually have in order uh, to strike someone, or how much room you actually have have wow, how much room do you have to just not get hit,
Right.
right? So in that's turning the body, it's being able to uh, just turn your palm in your with the sword in your hand, turn your palm from uh, a upward palm to a downward palm, which is supinated, and all the fun other words. But when you are looking at doing this, and let me know when you hit play.
Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, play.
All right. So when you watch this, this is a 5-hit combo because it's meant to create a sense of movement between you and your partner. Now, I teach this as a offense and defense. So one person is doing the offense, the other person is doing the defense. So the difference here that you can quickly see is that it's a one-handed idea.
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest thing to do is to extend the arm, and lean forward into a lunge. That's a quick one. But you notice Kenny's slightly offline, just slightly, and
Right.
his the blade angle is meant to just intercept as things are going. So as we strike at each other here, we're using quick circular movement of the tip of the blade to move in and move out. We're not really committing to going forward. We're still holding our ground, but we're also trying to get used to getting out of the way of our own blade and making sure that we're used to attacks coming high and low and high again and low again, just as a way to move from one end to the other end of our partner's targets, right? So when we do this, the first movement for the attacker is a lunge or a thrust. The second movement is basically either a backhand or a quick flick of the blade from the gut, because the thrust goes usually to the heart or to the throat, and there's a quick flick to the back of the head for the blade to go around. And then the third one is if you're blocking that or pairing that up there, I'm going to go down for your leg really quick. And then we're going to change levels again and go for your neck and then go for your knee and try to create one solid movement out of those 5 techniques. So when we actually do this in uh, demonstration, this video is roughly about 2 minutes long, but this part takes maybe 3 seconds if we're doing it slowly. So it should happen
Mm-hmm.
really quick. Da, 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 right? 5 hits, super quick. And that's kind of how the Makashi from Phoenix Saber is taught. It's super quick as far as combinations are concerned,
Right.
because the idea is you have a 360-degree blade, and every movement and every angle that you have stepped into turns into a way to attack your opponent,
Hmm.
even when you're pairing.
Interesting.
Mhm.
With Makashi being one handed,
Mhm.
recovery is an important deal.
Right.
In other words, your your forearm and your wrist and your hand and your
Mhm.
shoulder are gonna hate you
Mhm.
after a while.
Yeah.
So the idea of using the one motion to get to the next, you already talked about that with your Shicho video,
Mhm.
but here it is again in a more refined sense.
Right.
And one thing I noticed, especially after the first move, because the first move being a stab,
Mhm.
excuse me, the defense against a stab should not be another straight on stab. But
Mhm.
aside from that, the
Mhm.
blade angles were pretty much mirror congruent, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Mirror image,
Correct.
if you will. So if you were at a 10-degree pointing up, he was at about a 10 to 15-degree pointing up. If you were at a 45 pointing down, he was at a 45 pointing down. But also his body motion was such that he wasn't keeping on the lines. The blade angle was matching, but his body angle was out of the way. So very excuse me, defensively as well as offensively sound.
Yeah. So a lot of our interpretation of Makashi is coming from that fencing foil epee idea of kind of rapier like angles where you can go forward, just not into the other guy's tip.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
there's a that's what she said joke there somewhere.
Right. And the idea of like you're saying, of uh mirroring the other person's blade is meant to be kind of a way to learn how to parry at a specific angle, so that if they were to come down with any sort of strength, then your blade position should be just enough for that thrust or slash to not hit you.
Hmm.
It should just miss you.
I don't think we need to say anything else. That was a great Makashi little nibble. That's the only Makashi one right now, right?
Yeah, I only did one Makashi one because the rest of it's kind of like you got to be there.
Hmm.
If that makes any
I do. I
sense.
get it.
Like,
I get it.
like if you're not there and you're not actually, you know, playing and doing the technique, then it's really hard to just be like, yeah, that doesn't look like it works at all. But all right, bro, cool
Hmm.
story. You know, so it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of that sort of motion where yes, this works in this particular sense, in this particular motion, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But the idea of, especially the defensive side, is like, oh crap, what if somebody comes at me from this angle?
Sure.
You know, how do I move myself and my body quickly and not get hit? Whereas, like, it might look like it shouldn't work, or it looks more like a dance than it does an actual sword fight.
Yeah.
It's meant to like there's a point in the form where I have my students stand with one leg as they do two slashes in order for them to just get used to, you know, attacking while in the air.
Sure.
It's like you have to be able to do more than one strike at a time is
Yeah.
the idea.
Yep.
And then as you put your foot down, it should be another strike. So from the time you lift one foot, you attack two times, and when that foot hits the ground, you attack a third.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's great and all, but it doesn't translate in a video.
Sure.
It's more of a like here, this is what I'm doing really quick, and they're like, oh my god, I got hit three times.
Uh,
Instead of,
that's I'm glad you said that too, because that's kind of anytime you're watching like a kata or somebody
hmm
doing a martial arts combination or something. Uh, sometimes there is that, especially traditional kata. Like
hmm
I think about some of the kenpo, and now I'm learning. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. I'm learning some of
hmm
the traditional kung fu,
hmm
and there, like, because I've done martial arts for 30 years, I understand what's going on, but I
hmm
also know, like, some of these things, like if you do them in a tournament, you
hmm
won't get a good score at all. You might be doing
right.
the form excellent, but even other black belts sometimes might not know what the hell you're doing, because oh, I'm
hmm
grabbing the wrist, I'm twisting the wrist, and I'm pulling it in, and then I'm chopping to the
hmm
throat and punching it, right. But like, it looks like you did this weird freaking incantation with your hands. It's
Right.
like, you had to be there. You had to be there the
Right.
day I taught it to know what is going on. But yeah, such is life when you're learning martial arts.
Right. And that's the form version of it,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And unless you sit there and do you know, a 5 minute explanation of okay, this particular instance from this particular angle, from this particular blade length, from this particular
Right.
foot
Right.
forward, from this particular hand being forward. There is like, and then your explanation lasts longer than the technique,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, okay, here's actually what we're doing. If you know, you know, if you don't, then you just don't.
Yeah.
So it's a funny thing how that happens, especially for any martial arts, and you can tell by the by usually by the comments that are left on any martial arts video. But we've talked about people leaving silly comments and actually being armchair warriors and
Yeah.
arguing for the sake of arguing.
Yeah.
It Whenever you see this stuff, especially when you're looking at lightsaber stuff, look at it like you would a painting.
Yeah.
Like it might not be for you, but for some people it moves them.
There you go.
You know,
Yeah.
it is art. You know, I might not be the biggest fan of, I don't know, name a comedian, uh, Adam Sandler,
Sure.
let's
Yeah.
say.
I couldn't even.
But
Dave Chappelle was the only one. But nobody's not a fan of Dave Chappelle.
yeah, well, but here's the thing. Like, let's use Dave Chappelle actually. So
Sure.
Dave Chappelle was in the latest Saw movie.
Was he?
He was in the offshoot called Spiral,
Oh, I didn't know that.
right? And you see Dave Chappelle, and you're like, oh, this is going to be funny. Wait a second, this is a Saw movie. You know what I mean? So when you look at this,
Uh,
when you look at any martial art, the word art's in it, first of all.
yeah.
Secondly, this is this person's interpretation of how to do it. Now, there are people out there that like to point out bullshido, and you know what? I'm okay with it too.
It
But again,
exists.
I'm okay with that. That's why I'm okay with it, is because it does exist,
Yes.
and there's a bunch of people out there, unfortunately, that give actual martial arts a bad name,
Very bad name.
But also there are people out there that are quite much too boastful
Oh
uh,
yes.
in their technique,
Oh
and
yes.
they're quickly humbled by people that are just like, well, straight punch to the chin.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. But
Yeah.
there is something to be said about looking and watching something and actually doing something,
Hmm.
right? I can talk to you all day about climbing Mount Everest, but you don't really understand until you're freezing next to me,
Oh
next to our
yeah.
Sherpa.
I get
So
that.
yeah, so in all of this, please take it with a grain of salt, especially if you've listened to us this long.
Yeah. Sure.
It's very much, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is actually in this snapshot of this technique,
Yeah.
because there are so many different ways to move the body, so many ways to do it, but there's certain ways that it just doesn't work because of physics, and this is how I saw this coming, and I know this one particular technique. I've done it several thousand times,
Yeah.
and this is the one drill I keep on doing.
Uh, let me just, before we jump into Sarasu here,
Hmm.
final disclaimer on this. None of these forms exist.
Absolutely.
Not a one of these is real. Not a one of them is a real martial art. Shicho is not kendo. It is
Hmm.
reminiscent of, but it is not kendo. Makashi
Hmm.
is not fencing. It is reminiscent and largely influenced by, but it is not right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
to even say in a comment section or anything like this is not, or this should, to even comment on technique is just a fallacy, because what we're doing here is made up in the first place.
Hmm.
On top of that, if it weren't for people like yourself, myself, we're patting ourselves on the back a little bit. Yes, it is gross. Yes, it is arrogant. Yes, but we've been doing this Saber thing since the word Makashi, since the word Shicho was invented in Star Wars Insider in 2002.
Sure.
There aren't a whole lot
Well,
of people that can say that. And if there
right.
are, they're still hiding in the closet. They are not coming out of the woodwork.
Right.
We invite them to. Please do. Please come talk to us, because we want to know that you exist also. But my point is just, it was made up in the first place, and it was made up by dudes like you and me in the first place.
Right, exactly. There are several people out there that have done full on, like, uh dissertations on this stuff. And you know what? Hats off to them.
Yeah,
And they're
it's all valuable, and
yeah,
it's all legitimately their
right.
interpretation. You can't tell them
And
they're
and
wrong.
and that's the thing, is that it's an interpretation,
That's it.
right?
100%.
So it it's a way for somebody to show you, hey, this is what I have. What do you think? For, like, you actually said earlier that, hey, your Shi Cho looks a lot like my Gem So,
Yep.
right? It's like, yeah, yes, it should. Yes, absolutely. Like,
Yep.
because a lot of the sword forms, traditional sword work that I have learned, bleeds into, hey, how would that
Yes.
work with lightsaber?
Right.
You
100%.
know,
Yep.
maybe this one move. Okay, in my mind, this is how I do it in Shicho. Okay, in this is how it would work in as a Gemso technique.
How is
Oh,
it
you know
any?
what?
How's it any different than, okay? I learned a front kick in karate class. Now I go to Muay
Right.
Thai class and I practice a teep.
Right.
How's it any different?
Right.
It's
So
not.
it, yeah.
It's just not. And I think
Well,
that
one works better in a cage.
the front kick. I'm going on record right now, and I will tell you it's the front kick. I have busted the guts
Right.
out of many a Muay Thai guy with my
Right.
karate front kick. But that's a
Right.
topic for another day, and I don't want to get I don't want to get all the knock moys mad at me because I respect
Right.
what you do. I really do. Um, I think tongue firmly planted in cheek here. The
Right.
point is just it's been going on in martial arts forever that different
Yeah.
interpretations have their place. Um,
Absolutely.
and you know there's a Japanese interpretation of karate, several of them. There's a Korean interpretation of karate, several of them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the
Mm-hmm.
name karate on all of it. Some of them are
Mm-hmm.
called taekwondo. Some of them are
Mm-hmm.
called Chinese kenpo, American
Mm-hmm.
ken, right? Shotokan,
Mm-hmm.
Ishinryu. It's
Mm-hmm.
all the same crap. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Japanese jiu-jitsu, while not that similar, are also not that different.
Right.
And it's the same thing with lightsaber forms. My version of
Yeah.
Shicho and your version of Shicho, when we watch them back to back, is not going to seem that much different, but they're also not going to seem terribly similar in how they look. That means we're going to look at them and go, that's Shicho.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take you 2
Absolutely.
seconds to look at it and go, that's Shicho.
Right.
And it's basically the same thing. I can look at karate and go, that's karate. I don't know if it's Shotokan. I don't know if it's Ishinryu. I don't know if it's, whatever, Kenpo, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But I know it's karate.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same idea. All right, let's get into Soresu because
Okay. Which one do you want to see first?
does it matter?
No, not really. That's why I'm asking you.
Okay,
Which one do
so
you want
I
to see
see
first?
thread the needle first on my list. Let's go for that one.
Okay.
Soresu, thread
It
the
just
needle.
sounds cool, right?
Yeah, it
Thread the
does.
needle.
Totally does.
All
Let me
right.
pull up the link here.
I assure you, it sounds cooler than it looks.
Way to gauge the listenership
Yeah.
here.
Just so you know, it sounds really cool. And when you see it, you're like, seriously?
That's
And
funny.
every time you get hit by it, you're going to be like, seriously? Dang it.
I have a feeling I know what this is going to be, but I
Uh-huh.
can't wait for it.
Sure.
Soresu is one of my favorite forms because it's kind of like a form you need to master to be good at Form 5, but it's also kind of
Mhm.
anti-Form 5.
Yeah.
So I just love it so much for that reason.
Yeah.
So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
So again, thread the needle, the poem for the technique, right, is meant to evoke what you're actually trying to do. And the idea is literally this that you see Kenny doing. He's circling, parrying down, and stepping in. And you'll see
Adjusting
Reggie.
the opponent's blade.
Hmm.
It's almost not
soft
even
deflection.
a parry, right? It's soft.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a soft deflection that just makes you step forward with your stature or your structure, and that's it. You literally don't do a lot.
Every
The whole
form is
point of
Shicho.
it,
Shicho's every form. That was also very Shicho.
yeah. So as you go through and look at this, you're like it's kind of underwhelming, right? Again, watching it in motion and then seeing the actual technique, it's like, oh, okay.
But there's that
I
middle guard
understand now.
manipulation too. Again, like you're just exploiting the
Yep.
tendency of a human monkey to sit in middle guard.
Yes. And that's usually, again, it's going to be the most used guard that you'll see in most of
Mhm.
these things. There's different variations of it, of course,
That
but
was
you'll
even
usually see that.
that was even more mechanically economical than
Hmm.
everything else we've watched so far. We talked about that economy of motion ad nauseum.
Hmm.
That was
Yep.
even more so.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the point of Soresu is there's a never ending or an omnipotent wall of defense. And
Hmm.
even when you're not moving, you're defending. Or if you're moving very little, you're
Right.
defending very well. So yeah, that was a cool video. Let's move on to rolling slash. You ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Tell me when.
Saresu rolling slash. Like you said, a little. I don't want to say underwhelming. Not a ton to dissect on that one because it's such a cut and dry, efficient technique. So
Hmm.
that thread the needle again. If you're in a tournament or something, or if you're teaching, particularly,
Hmm.
this is great. This is great stuff to get people to cash in on opportunities
Hmm.
when somebody's sitting in middle guard. So let's jump
Right.
into Saresu rolling slash. Three,
Okay.
2, 1, go.
All right.
I have no clue what this one's going to be.
So rolling slash is a basically turning a deflection into an attack. The idea is literally coming from one side of the blade and using that motion to step in and complete
Ah,
another movement. So it looks like a your blade is rolling or wheeling from
yes.
the front of you to behind you. In a moment, yeah, okay, here we go. We have the guys in helmets, so they're actually hitting each other instead of just pretending to hit each other. So
Yeah.
as you go through the rolling slash, it's actually very much a deflection that turns into a strike. Now, again, that could be Gemso if you
I
were
was
to
just going to say that's straight out of
quickly,
Shien for me, but
yeah.
Shien, Gemso, same idea.
Yeah, so again, we keep on mentioning Gemso because it's like everything I've posted is like a counter attack
Yes.
or a
Right.
movement
Yeah.
into
I
something.
mean, Gemso
But
is the form of countering.
right, so this if you were to uh, basically overpower with that first motion of deflection
Yes.
and kind of bring that strike to bear,
A little
that
more
would be
follow
more
through with
Gemso.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Between the
would
parry and the strike to add some extra gas in the follow through tank would make it a
right.
lot more
So
Gemso.
the footwork would be different
And
in
for
that.
me
So.
personally, this is our form.
Hmm.
Soresu, I teach 0 strikes. That doesn't mean you
Hmm.
don't strike if you're a Soresu person. It just means
Hmm.
you're not being taught how to
Hmm.
strike during Form 3
Hmm.
training. You're only being
Sure.
taught defense, and any striking you do is just other forms coming out. Generally,
Right.
Form 1 or 2. But
Right.
for me, adding that strike immediately shifts it into the Shien category. And for
Hmm.
me, Shien is sort of like a softer variation of Gemso.
Right.
So in this sense, excuse me, the defense would stay soft,
Hmm.
but that strike, were I to make it more Shien, that strike would still have all the force of a Gemso strike.
Right.
Uh,
So again, there's only so many ways to bend your elbow,
right, yeah,
but
yeah,
it's that's the footwork does make it different and
correct.
set.
And how much
And,
you adjust your own grip, your own, like you said, the elbows, but like I noticed with the guys in the video, I know Kenny, I don't know the other guy's name,
Reggie.
Reggie, okay, and they're both very good at not wasting their lightsaber, like
Hmm.
wasting motion. So maybe that's just because they're good at that. You can really see, but
Hmm.
that's something you should. I think you're trying to get at that a little bit. Like you're not sending your own lightsaber off in this orbit to just
Hmm.
come right back in orbit again. It's staying
Right.
on the orbit it was already on.
Correct. And again, it is meant for you to wheel the blade from let's say 12 o'clock all the way back around to 12 o'clock,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's called a rolling slash, is because it should start and end generally in the same place. The difference is your body mechanics and your structure moving forward, your footwork, and the angle that you're actually doing that in. Now, a lot of times, what'll happen in this is that somebody will see you becoming aggressive and they'll just step back,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
They'll
I get you.
they'll just step back, and the idea of this is that even if they do step back and you took a step forward, you should still have a better angle to hit them, because again, it's not like you're going to be you know you're not going to ever get a point by just blocking,
Yeah.
right? So in a
Right.
lot of the martial arts and a lot of the sword forms and sword styles I have ever been taught, you're usually done moving when the other person is not moving.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the idea here. And like the way you teach Suresu, is also valid as far as like not giving them like a specific Suresu attack.
You're
But yeah,
correct.
they're in this particular motion, for at least for Phoenix Saber Academy, Suresu is meant to be able to take on more than one opponent at a time. And you know how to deal with one opponent or more than one opponent at a time?
Yeah, you got to strike
Take
down a
one
bunch of
out at a
them.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
should I don't feel like I need to clarify, but I'm gonna clarify.
mhm,
It When somebody's doing Saresi with me, I want them to find the attacking moments, the strikes on their own. I
mhm,
think if you're so focused on defense that you can't create your own offense, then you're not
mhm,
doing Saresu. But
right.
if you are not necessarily focused on defense, the defense is
Mhm,
coming to you. You're just defending. Then you have time, you have space to find the attacks. And what I mean by
mhm,
that is like let's just use this rolling slash as an example. So
mhm,
for a pure Saresu application in my form, it would be to do the initial manipulation and then to assume that the attacker is going to use what I did to attack from a different angle and bring that orbit back into a block.
right.
Now, in between there, or as we say in music, between the staff, in the
Mhm,
spaces, you would insert some little notes. Um, Maybe a stab to the hands, right?
mhm,
So as I'm rolling here, I parried, I've manipulated the blade. The tip of my sword will nick a finger, and then I'll go into the next block without changing my orbit. So
mhm,
what I'll teach them during Soresu training will be, okay, so we'll slow this parry down, we'll slow this block down. Do you see where the strike is here? Oh, there's a stab to the fingers. And you don't even have to change your, or, oh, okay, so I'm moving to this. So let me extend my wrist so that I can cut to the neck while moving to the block on that zone. So anyway, I don't know if that was clear as mud or clear as day, but
mhm.
that's a little clarification on what I'm talking about. It's
Sure.
not that I don't want you to attack if you're
Mhm.
learning the defensive form, but I want you to get so good at the defense that you're now looking for the offense. If that makes
Absolutely.
sense. Okay,
Yeah.
Soresu deflecting slash is our
Deflecting
next video.
slash. Okay.
3, 2, 1, play.
All right. So the idea of this is exactly what it sounds like. Deflection into a slash. And you'll see in this particular video, Reggie is going to be using big sweeping motions with his blade when
Fits
he's
for
doing it
Soresu
by
for me.
himself.
Fits for
Yeah.
me.
And then you'll see that as they're doing it on each other here, it's actually trying to deflect the tip away so that you can come in with quick strikes back. And again, if somebody is backing up, those small movements will come much faster at them as they're moving away.
Yeah.
And actually, as you're going forward, you're taking away maybe 95% of anything that they can do
Which is a
to
defensive tactic. I mean, that's a pure
yeah,
defensive tactic. Crowding the space
yeah,
to take away their weaponry.
right.
That's great.
Again, again, this is you couldn't quite see it here because this is actually meant to be done at an angle,
Mm-hmm.
because the first deflection that you're supposed to do, it points the tip of their blade away from you, almost at a 90-degree angle is what it's supposed to do in order for you to close the distance with two more strikes or two more blocks as
Correct.
you're stepping forward.
I say correct, like I
So
came up with the technique. Yeah, correct meaning I get what you're saying.
yeah, but you'll see, like, if you're doing it at speed, chances are they're responding to the first deflection as you're hitting them with the other two.
So
And
when you say
yeah,
that, that makes me think. I mean, I know it could, but it makes me think that could work as you're retreating just as well as it could coming in. So as they're attacking, you sweep it out of the way, and you lightning quick. You have two more strikes and or blocks as you're
oh, you can't
retreating
give
or
away secrets like
stepping
that.
offline.
They have to pay the subscription fee.
Yeah,
They have to
yeah.
sign up to our Patreon. They have to do the
Uh,
HEO classes for at least a year.
one day before we can tell you can retreat as well as advance.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
this
Everything moving
guy.
forward works
Uh,
backwards too.
This
Oh
is
my goodness.
legitimately the way some people run their martial arts programs. They make you think that
Right.
these things are secret techniques, and then you get your purple
Right.
belt, and they're like, and you can poke him in the eyes too. And you're like, really?
Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
last one. Suresu cross. That was harder to say than it was to watch. Suresu
Yeah.
cross slash.
Yes.
And we'll play this one. Give me just a second here. Starting in 3, 2, 1, 0.
So if
Suresu
you
cross
ever
slash.
watch the Saresu form that I teach, this is the salute, so you know.
Okay.
So this is the Saresu salute, which is basically cross slash and pierce. So all that means is I deflect, I control, and I step in with my whole body. So as I'm doing this, the movement of my body going forward makes it harder for you to deflect. It makes it harder for you
Crowding the
to
space again,
uh,
just like the last video.
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this is meant it like when you see it in the form, you'll see it as just like, okay, you're just moving your hands. All right. I don't see why you would do that. But then you see it in application and it's just like, oh, that makes so much sense. I move his blade out of the way,
Right.
I cut his hands off,
Right.
and I just step forward and he's impaled.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically that deflecting strike that we did before, a little bit more kind of the antithesis of the rolling strike, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing the direction of from my deflection. So when we're doing Suresu at Phoenix Saber, what what we're really trying to do is trying to get into a more advantageous position, and that's really all it is.
I
I'm
think
stepping
that
into a
is
more
brilliant.
advantageous position.
I think that's brilliant. Kicking it back to earlier in the conversation, talking about Shicho being a lot about body mechanics.
Hmm.
I didn't incorporate, maybe I did, but not as heavily for sure. I didn't incorporate Suresu into that blade work category
Hmm.
as much as Makashi, Gemso, Ataru. That being said, it is very important to have great blade work in Suresu, but I feel like the body mechanics are just as important as they were in Shicho. In other words, they were important in Shicho because you're just now learning the first thing, so you have to have the body mechanics, otherwise nothing else is going to make sense. But
Right.
then when you come back around to defense, it's so important, so important to have better footwork, better stances, better, like you
Hmm.
said, just geography in the
Hmm.
fight, better location. And if you know anything about real estate, location is everything.
Geometry,
I
right? Not
myself don't.
geography.
Uh, no, well, both because
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. Location does matter.
yeah, I mean, like if I'm standing in front of you, but I should be standing to the right of you. I mean, you know. So yeah, both geometry and geography. Geometry
Oh
of the
man,
blade of the
that's the high.
stance.
There's a high ground joke in there somewhere. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna find that joke. Oh
Yeah.
man. Uh, I think this is a very interesting take on Suresu because it is different than mine. Which honestly, I kind of thought I know the way you actually do like in fighting. I know the way you guys do Suresu and
Mm-hmm.
everything, but watching your Suresu form, your actual like kata, like
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot more influence of like Dao broadsword, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a lot more, dare I say, katana oriented,
Mm-hmm.
or straight up like stick fighting,
Mm-hmm.
which I really appreciated. It's a different lens on the same thing, but it's clearly still Soresu. So here's what I want to do for tonight, Alan. We've already been
Mm-hmm.
going for an hour and 20 minutes, which is awesome. I actually did not think we would have that much to talk about with such little. Like, there's only like 8 minutes of actual video, 10 minutes of
Yeah.
actual video, but that just goes to show what you can really get out of martial arts if you have a passion for it, if you want to look for it. And clearly the two of us, we have a passion for it, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to look very hard to find a whole
Right.
lot in that little bit of technique. So first of all, thank you for making those videos, because
Yeah.
you've inspired me as well. But it's just good stuff. It's simple. It's not real flowery. It doesn't need to be, and it's
Right.
immediately applicable for anybody who watches. So what I want to do is this week I want to wrap it up because we're already at almost an hour and a half. So let me next week we'll call it Delaware Saber Martial Arts Week. This week is Phoenix Saber Martial Arts Week.
Sure.
And so yeah, we'll do the same thing we did tonight next Tuesday, but with my
Awesome.
videos. And I think some stuff people are, like I said, really going to see similarities. Some
Mm-hmm.
stuff is going to seem different, but none of it is any more difficult than anything you saw. It sounds so obvious now it's coming out of my mouth, but if you understand the concept of what you're learning, then you will understand how to apply it. But that's what it comes down to. If you
Did you just
understand,
become Jedi Dr. Phil?
yeah, 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 I think I did. Oh, that's
That's
funny.
funny.
That's very funny. Oh, oh my gosh. I think we should leave it at that. Jedi Dr. Phil. So next week we'll get into my stuff. By the time you're listening to this episode, we will have had 3 already released on both YouTube and all of the podcatcher apps. So please subscribe to the Saber Martial Arts Podcast. Share it with some friends. Give us a
leave us
buzz.
a leave us a comment.
Yeah,
Leave us
comment, review.
a review.
Shout out to Ryan
Also,
from Saber Light
yeah,
Nights. He left us a comment on our podcast a
yeah,
few weeks ago.
yeah.
Yeah, we love to hear from you guys. Even if you're that troll who says we're doing stuff wrong, I don't care. Send it to us anyway.
Hey, and if you are, send us what you're doing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
please.
Hey,
We want to actually see it. And hey, you know what?
you
If
might be
you do
right.
it better, we will definitely
Yeah,
say
we
it.
will definitely say
And
it.
yeah,
100%.
and you know what? There are a bunch of you that do it better than we do.
Oh yeah.
You know you're out there.
A few weeks ago, Alan showed me somebody who was doing it pretty damn well. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we might get into that guy in a little while here. No
yeah,
spoilers. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Alan, sabermartialarts.life, Saber Mayhem,
Hmm.
and bring your own saber.
Bring your own saber. This party's over.